Hey guys, welcome back to the Battery Podcast.
Today's gonna be a radical episode.
Kind of a change
of pace, something radically different. And you're gonna hear me use the word radical a lot because it's so rad. Anyway, today we're gonna discuss a topic. It's gonna be way left field from what we normally talk about. It's something that just caught our attention these last couple of months, and I've been talking to a couple friends about it as well, and they also know some stuff and have some knowledge in this.
So this doesn't always have to be serious. We can just shoot. Just
shoot the shit.
Exactly.
That's what's gonna be today. We're gonna shoot the shit, and we're gonna just go into it. So here it goes. So today we are going to be talking about giants that actually roamed the earth for I don't know how long, how much.
Yeah, I have no clue.
A very long time ago, essentially. And people are actually just starting to discover fossils that match,
or bones
that match what could potentially be humanoid creatures that were roughly 12 to 15 feet tall.
Maybe even bigger.
Even bigger.
I saw this one that they discovered, I think it was somewhere in Australia. They put him together and he was like 25 feet tall. Like, they have most of the structure.
What?
Skeleton. Yeah, it's like, it looks similar to, remember Jurassic Park when the T-Rex went in the museum and just at the very end and just fucked up all the velociraptors.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine instead of T-Rex bones right there, it's just a giant person. I saw like a video on that. And
all right, you'll elaborate on this a little bit more.
Because I just saw that one video, but there's been multiple burial sites that have been uncovered pretty recently, and they just find huge fucking skulls, huge femurs. There's this one femur that can only fit
a 20-foot person.
Yeah, the skeleton of a 15 to 20-foot person.
That's the thing, is that you can't. It's hard to deny a femur.
Yeah.
I mean, any other bone, maybe like a rib or a finger or maybe a jaw of some sort, that can vary. Because it'll take a little while. You see a femur that big,
it's a femur.
It's a fucking femur.
Yeah,
especially if it's fully intact.
No doubt, yeah.
Then it's a fucking femur, and it's gonna, whatever it fits, it's gonna fit, and you're gonna have to match whatever that fits.
Exactly.
I'm no expert, but I do know what a femur is, and it is one of the biggest single bones we have.
It's the biggest bone in your body,
right?
Plus it's probably the strongest as well.
That's what I hear, and so hard to deny a femur. Anyway,
so they've been finding bones for the last probably 100 years that they've been writing about it. There's been articles about it and stuff, but unfortunately, every time they usually find giant bones and send it to the Smithsonian,
they cover it up.
They just end up disappearing.
Yeah,
exactly.
They cover it up.
There are giant bones found. It's just, I'm guessing the majority that have been discovered by, I don't know,
major paleontologists.
Yeah, exactly. So all of those discoveries, or most of those discoveries, have probably just been shooed away or just brushed under the rug by hiding the bones, or not just, I don't know.
I think, because we all know that if we explicitly make it clear that giants did in fact roam this earth. Now, I'm not saying they did or they didn't. Yes, I am saying
I'm kind of saying they did.
I am saying that. Never mind. Yeah, I don't care what you believe. This is what I believe. But anyway, it's going to change the world, realistically. Especially if we explicitly prove that giants did in fact roam, and that there were tribes of giants back in the day, for however much long ago that it was. It's going to disprove a lot of things, mainly the theory of evolution. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start with what I know and what I've found.
There you go. We'll just bounce off each other.
Yeah. So what I've found out in recent times, about maybe 3-4 months ago, it's mainly about a military army task force that was set out in Kandahar.
Afghanistan, right?
Afghanistan, yes. And a lot of people, their articles are all over the internet.
Look it up. Just look up the Giant of Kandahar.
The Giant of Kandahar in Afghanistan, and there are tons of articles written about it.
A couple YouTube videos.
Yeah, a couple YouTube videos, exactly. And the reason why it caught my attention is because every story corroborated, all match. Everybody that was involved. It had usually when something's bullshit, you hear it from multiple sources, and they all generally have the same premise, but some details are different from different people. Different sources have different details. Not this one. Literally, there have been maybe 6 or 7 sources, all from the same soldiers that were involved in the altercation, and every single one of them had the exact same story. Not a single one of them deviated from that story, and it all matches. Like nothing changed. Like none of the details were changed. They were all exactly the same. And the other thing too is this is too much of a random story to not be true in the sense that what. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll start with I'll say what went down. So back in 2002, there was a military task force. It was an army task force that was set out in Kandahar, Afghanistan, and they were on a mission to go find another unit.
The other unit was out of contact for
a couple days, I believe.
Yeah, so they were just kind of wondering what the fuck happened. They got dropped off in the last location that the last unit checked in at.
Yeah.
And they just kind of spent a couple hours securing trying to find the perimeter. Yeah. I mean, securing the perimeter and trying to find their people.
Figuring out what had happened. And so they were walking, and they were in the mountain ranges of this area, and it's a few kilometers.
He said like 4 kilometers around it. Well, I'm not sure. What were you saying?
I'd say no, because I know that it was a few kilometers from a near village.
Oh no! From the story, he just said we got dropped off like a couple kilometers from where
from where they last heard. Yeah. But there is a village a few kilometers
probably,
near the area too, and so they get dropped off, and they're walking down the mountain range, and where all of a sudden. They turn a corner in this mountain range, and there's a big cave, about 12-foot cave. And so it's about 5 soldiers, and one of them approaches the cave, and near the area they see bones, lots of bones, and they also see radio equipment.
Communications equipment. Yeah, and this is like 2002, so it's fairly recent equipment. I mean, if it's a radio, you'll know it's a radio.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
It's fairly new technology. Okay. So they just see it all on the floor scattered, and then you're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, and so these soldiers are looking around. They're scavenging the area, and then where all of a sudden, a 12-foot humanoid just jumps right out of the cave, and he was so the way he's described is he's about roughly 12 to 15 feet tall.
The description is key because there's other stories that
really do match these descriptions, and so this humanoid was roughly 12 to 15 feet tall, had long, bright, crimson red hair almost, with red beard, with a big red beard as well. He had a
very white apparently.
Very pale complexion. His skin was it was very pale and white. And he had I'm assuming it was like a 7 to 8 foot spear with him. And so he had a spear, and when the soldiers saw him, he was moving at such a high velocity. They did not know what hit him.
Yeah.
And so what happened was this. They were all stunned. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what was going on. And so the giant impales one of the nearest soldier to him with his spear and completely and immediately kills him.
He lifts him up like it's apparently nothing, pretty much. So
Yeah.
he stabs him with the spear and just kind of shakes him.
Yeah.
Like it's nothing. Like if you picked up a puppy kind of thing.
Exactly. And so he impales. The second that one of the soldiers gets impaled, that's when the other four soldiers immediately go back into their training mode, and their instincts kick in, and they finally actually start acting and shooting the individual, the creature. And so they shoot him, and the altercation took roughly 20 to 30 seconds from what everybody's told me, or not me, but from what everybody said that was involved. It was about 20 to 30 seconds until the giant finally came down. And he killed it. And so the other thing is, so they were stunned. They had no idea what they were looking at. They didn't know what this thing was. But another key description about this giant was it had 6 fingers and 6 toes, too. So that's another thing. So 12 to 15 feet tall, had bright red hair with a bright red beard, and it had a 6 to 7 foot long spear and 6 toes and 6 fingers. And so finally, when they had killed it, they called in a chopper to come pick it up. And when the chopper gets there, they put it on a pallet, and one of the soldiers described the pallet as it being 8 by 12. It's an 8 by 12 pallet that they use to just to transport big cargo, kind of like the similar. I hate to reference Jurassic Park again, but similar to the way they transported some dinosaurs with the machines. But anyway, so they placed the giant on the pallet, and they said it's a roughly 8 by 12 foot pallet. And when the other soldiers got there that weren't involved in the altercation, once they got there and they saw it, the pallet was 8 by 12. The monster was curled up into the fetal position, and it was still too big for the pallet. It still covered the entire pallet plus more. They didn't know what they were looking at. Another key description, another thing that they said was that it had a very foul stench. It smelled like a rotting corpse, essentially. It was not. I mean, it was technically a rotting corpse, but it smelled like that way even before they killed it. That's just the way it smelled, regardless. And so then I look at this, and I just started doing a lot more research and started looking up as many links as possible. And I was surprised to see quite a few articles written about this. And again, every single article, every single video I've seen, it all ties in perfectly. It all makes sense. I know it sounds crazy. I know I can't help but sound crazy, and maybe I might be losing some people.
Well, I feel like you just have to look into other things. How I came across it was I didn't believe in it. I didn't even know about it, honestly. I thought it was just bullshit up until like 2 weeks ago.
Well, when you started talking about giants to me, immediately the light bulb came in. I immediately told you about was I the one that told you about
so he's the one. As soon as I was looking at some videos of I think his name is Graham Hancock. I heard about him in the Joe Rogan Experience, and he's just a archaeologist, I think. I don't know. He's pretty much the person that says our civilization is not 2,000 years old. We're more likely a couple 100,000 years old, but our civilization is the most recent, and there's cataclysmic events happened every couple thousand years that wipe out the civilization that's on Earth at the moment. So he's saying we're more likely about 12th, or he's saying the pyramids were built around 12,500 years ago, which is like 9,000 years before we think it's actually built. So the pyramids today, people think the pyramids are built like
6,000.
I think it's like 3,000 BC. It's more like 12,500 BC, and there was a giant flood that happened at that time. So he's connecting a bunch of events together, and in the Bible, he also mentions the Bible.
Yeah, a lot of the things align biblically speaking.
And so I think as the Bible as a giant just history book, so I feel like it's all been somewhat diluted, but it honestly has a lot of truth to it. So in the Bible, it speaks of giants roaming the earth, making us look like grasshoppers and feeling like grasshoppers compared to them. This is in the not just the Christian Bible. It's in the Quran. It's in the Torah.
Mm-hmm.
There's multiple sources in multiple religions that all mention giants, and we somewhat, I mean, just glance over it because who the fuck?
Yeah, the book of Genesis mentions giants, and it just kind of we just kind of brush it off because again, culturally speaking, it's just a different story nowadays. I mean, from what I know, which is very limited. I'm very limited in my knowledge, but I did spend an entire month just researching just this particular event in Kandahar, because that's the one that really got me incredibly interested.
Well, not just the fact that, I mean, it's giant. It's everybody's story matches pretty closely.
Yeah, exactly.
And you told me that there was a soldier that went back to the town.
Yes.
And asked the civilian or a local.
Yeah.
A well-known local about the giant, and he just looks stunned apparently, and he's like, "How do you how?"
Basically, yeah. So afterwards, one of the soldiers came back and asked. I don't know if it was one of the actual soldiers involved in the altercation or another person within the unit, but someone close to the operation went back to the town in Kandahar that was near the mountain range where the monster was discovered and shot. And they asked the local and asked him, "Hey, do you know anything about a giant that roams these mountain ranges?" And the local, when asked, the local was just stunned and befuddled because he thought he and the people of the town were the only people that knew about the giant. And so he was stunned that a white guy came up to him and asked him about the giant. It just threw him off and said, how the hell do you know about that kind of thing? That was his reaction. And then, of course, another detail, and this is one that probably sounds like a conspiracy theory, probably not. But when the soldiers were asked to write their official statements of the mission, they all wrote the same exact thing, which was once they got to the mountain range and they discovered the bones and the radio equipment, and the giant came out and impaled one of the soldiers. That's when the U.S. government, basically told them, leave everything out about the giant. Tell everything about the operation minus the giant. Basically, that's what they told every single one of the soldiers. So they were by law, by threat of, I think, treason, essentially, could be that to leave out the information about the giant and just stick to basic. It was a basic search and rescue. That's what it was, and that's what it was. The official, it wasn't the first record. It was not the official record. The official one was when they added the monster in the story,
and they made him take
it out. And so.
Yeah, there's another one. Well, this is just crazy because I was reading up on it as a little bit more, and then some of the Native American tribes apparently were telling stories and have it written down that they used to fight with giant red-headed creatures or giant red-headed people. This
is here in North America, by the way. This is not
exactly.
even in that's not even in Afghanistan. So there's too much of a coincidence going on here.
I don't think it's not a coincidence too, because they currently have skulls of the giants that still have red hair. It's not bright. They're very old, but they have a solid handful of red hair, and that's fucking gnarly.
How is it that this is not being made in the news? How this is not being made in the mainstream news is beyond me. I guess it's because we're so used to we're just so preoccupied with politics, bullshit ass politics, and that is insane.
So I'm showing them a picture of the skull with red hair right now. They have a different shaped head. It's like it's elongated, definitely elongated compared to regular. But
how big is this thing?
I can't really. I don't have a. What's it called? I don't have like a size comparison, but that's somewhat what it would look like. I'm guessing. So this is just crazy, dude. And they find giant tombs. They have one. They think it's a lady or a female, but it was like mummified, and it's got its fingers fused. It's got an elongated skull, and it just looks different because a human skull has certain features, like it's called sutures, which are lines that connect the human skull has like 3 plates on his head, the frontal bone and like the side bones and then the occipital. The giant has one. It's only 2. It's like a giant line right here, and it's only separated by 2 bones. I'm probably butchering it, but I know that the human bone is separated by 4 major bones, and the giant head looks completely different. It's got different suture lines, and it's just gnarly. It's just
how this is not being made into the news is beyond me. But we all know why, is because the mainstream news controls the narrative, and they don't want people asking questions that they would deviate from irrelevant things like who's the next presidential candidate going to be, or politics or pop culture. That's just these discoveries. I don't understand how it's flying under the radar. We humans have a tendency to be so arrogant, I think, that we feel we can just brush everything under the rug and just kind of ignore what actually existed and what actually happened. So I think it has a little bit to do with arrogance. I think it has a little bit to do with controlling the narrative.
No doubt. I mean, why else would they be hiding it?
Yeah, because this is world changing. This would change the way we see the world. Period.
I don't know if I believe in this, but like, there's a bunch of other conspiracy theories that say they want to use the government want to use their DNA for super soldiers. I feel like that's
they could
probably do that with
CRISPR
going on. Have you heard of CRISPR?
No.
It's gene editing. We're getting, compared to what it is today, it's gonna be it's gnarly, and what it is 10 years from now.
What's funny?
They're gene editing, dude. They can make super soldiers within the next 15 years probably, but they want to use, or imagine if they use giant DNA to have a fucking army. I mean, this is all conspiracy theories for that part. I do believe giants are real, but
yeah,
imagine
well, no, it's so funny because a few years ago Dallas told me about gene editing a while back, and how they're moving forward with these programs. I'll have to ask him.
It's called CRISPR, dude. Look it up. I mean, it's pretty big. Joe Rogan talks about it a lot. But you want to go into how they were created?
What?
The giants?
How were they created?
Well, in the Bible, it says that
biblically speaking, yeah, they were. If we're talking in terms of the Bible, they are soulless creatures that were offspring of angels and humans. And
they were abominations technically. Because
they were abominations. They were not creations of God. They had no souls, and so they were. That's why biblically they weren't such a big part of all the stories in the Bible. But
they weren't God's creation. But it was a good point that I listened to somewhere. It was because the angels are immortal. They're heavenly creatures. They're immortal. That they had sex with regular human. The offspring were abominations because their souls were immortal, but their bodies weren't. So it was like, I'm probably butchering that as well, but like that doesn't mix well in however they were made. So I gotta refine that. I'm sorry, but it was just a cool concept to think about, and yeah, what else? So yeah, they were abominations, and
Yeah. It just it baffles me that this is being brushed under the rug again. I remember when I first heard about this, I lost sleep over it.
No,
I really did lose sleep over this. I know I sound like a crazy person, but I have friends that I talk about this to, and yeah, they completely follow me on this and say, yeah, you know what, you're right. We don't know everything. I definitely don't know everything, but I keep an open mind, and I always take in and discard what I know is pretty ridiculous. Like, for example, I try to keep an open mind, but with this, it made too much sense. And in my story with the giant in Kandahar, it's too much of a random story not to be at least somewhat, not to have some element of truth to it. Because what does a group of soldiers have to do? Why would they ever make a story of a giant they discovered in Kandahar, a redheaded being?
That makes a big difference, because like there's multiple sources all over the world that they all, or not all of them, I don't think all of them have the same thing,
description,
but
majority.
I mean, they've been found all over the world to have red hair.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
And so it just makes no sense for a group of soldiers to make up a story like this. It's too descriptive.
And in like mythology, where do they get the giants? Like, or not mythology, let's say David versus Goliath.
Yeah,
that could have been a fucking just like a representation
of one of the exactly. Essentially,
it's also demigods. They're considered demigods as well,
because they are half angel,
angel and half human. So I mean, I always thought Hercules. Hercules is considered to be the biggest, baddest motherfucker around. What if he's just not human and just ends up being a actual big motherfucker?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. But yeah, again, in this story, like I said, with my story, the Kandahar story, it's just too descriptive. This is in 2002. This is at the height of the Afghan war.
Yeah.
We had just started invading Afghanistan. I think we were about to enter Iraq. I think Iraq is 2003. I think so. Shortly after we were just in height of war in the Middle East. So these soldiers have nothing better. Like they have better things to do than to make up stories like fighting a giant while they were searching for a lost unit. Like that story is too descriptive, and again, it's U.S. soldiers. These guys, they have other things on their minds. These guys are trying to go home to their families. Okay. These guys are trying to go home to their families. It's 2002. It's at the height of the Afghanistan war. And so why would a group of soldiers make up an incredibly descriptive story of fighting a giant in search of a lost unit? It just makes it makes too much sense to me.
There's this other one that it was circulating on the internet a couple of years ago. It was a picture of a giant finger that's mummified next to a wad of cash, and the finger makes the cash look tiny. It's like the cash is like bigger than the fingernail, but that's it. There's the finger's gotta be the cash is like 6 inches across.
Yeah,
it's gotta be
at least a foot and like 3 inches.
A few inches. Yeah. So this is a foot and a few inches worth of finger. This is a fucking finger, dude. And
we don't even know if it's an index finger or not.
No, I can't tell.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's also footprints in rock or granite. There's footprints that are found in granite. There's one in Australia. There was a giant one. It was like a 2-foot footprint, like all digits. You can see it all, everything. And there's another one that's like 3-4 feet in South Africa that no one knows how it could have happened. Like, you can't carve that in there. It's a legit indentation. It looks like, someone stepped on fresh cement and let it dry. That's what happened, kind of shit. But nobody can do that.
Kind of like the Hollywood Walk of
yeah. When you put your hands in there and shit. Yeah, that Here, let me try to find it. This one.
Yep. What the hell?
It's like this guy. I don't know how tall this guy is, but it's
He's at
more
least,
than half
he's
his
at
size.
least, yeah, exactly.
The footprint is more than half his size, and the footprint is in South Africa, and there's another one. I think this one's Australia, but yeah, look at that. It's like a full, solid footprint. You can see all the digits, and it's 3-4 times bigger than the regular person's footprint.
Yeah.
An anomaly can't do that. That's got to be something different. And like I said, there's fucking these massive ass bones found everywhere. And I'm guessing it's getting harder for them to hide it.
Yeah.
Because we got the internet
Yeah.
going around. Before, the stories that I heard from the Smithsonian taking the bones and never releasing any other information about them, that was mainly between like the early 1900s and like probably the 50s, 60s. Nowadays it's probably a lot harder to do that, so we're getting a lot better footage, or we're getting more to deal with now, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
So we might be able to disprove it. I just have a cool feeling that within the next like 10-15 years, maybe
all of this is gonna get
within our lifetime. I feel like this is gonna get uncovered, and we're probably gonna find Atlantis as well.
Oh, that's where we're heading. Okay, all right.
Apparently, I don't know. The stories of Atlantis are that they were super civilized, right? Like
something along the lines. I don't know too much, but I know the general premise.
I think they were civilized, different than us, but definitely
advanced in a different way.
I feel like we got lucky and got
the
I don't know, like our technology. They probably have a completely different technology that
matches ours, but it's just
for them.
We don't know. We don't know.
I really do believe in Atlantis because Graham Hancock, when he was describing the cataclysmic events, he's saying there's a giant flood, just like in the Bible. Just like in all these historic events, there was a giant flood, and there's got to be a city down there, dude. Mm-hmm. We don't know anything about the ocean.
That's the thing. Yeah, we probably know more about space. We probably know more for outer space than we do of our own ocean,
which is nuts.
Yeah. So yeah, that's. I guess we're gonna wrap this up. But yeah,
giants, guys, look into it.
Look into it.
I wish we could have gotten a little bit better detail. We probably did, but I would honestly look up some of the videos for yourselves.
I would say start with the video of the giant in Kandahar. That one
took me to like a 3-day loop of just looking at a bunch of shit.
Because that particular story, that particular article, and those videos, again, all extremely descriptive, and they're all. And if you read every single one and you look up every single one, every single one matches. I don't think not a single detail is deviated from different sources. Every single source says the exact same thing, and again, if you really watch the premise of it, again, these guys who, if you believe that these soldiers are making this up, again, just understand, this is in 2002. This is at the height of the Afghanistan war. These soldiers have nothing. They have no reason to be making stuff up like this. These guys are just trying to survive and go home to their families. Like and for them to come up with a story like this that's incredibly descriptive. It's too much. It's too much not to look into. At the very least, give it a glance. So
there's some cool mythology paintings that have giants, not with red hair, but they're big compared to the other people in the picture, and they have 6 fingers too.
Yeah,
so
interesting.
There's just a bunch of shit.
Yeah. We may revisit this. Yeah.
Actually, I'd be super down to revisit it. Hopefully, some new information comes out. I look into it a little bit more.
We'll see you later.
All right, guys. Love you guys. Peace.